Welcome to another edition of Our City. A few things going around the city of Elizabeth this week. On Wednesday, April 22nd at 5 in the afternoon, the Greater Elizabeth Chamber of Commerce will have a business after-hours networking event. It will be held at Valenka Restaurant at 665 Monroe Avenue. Also this week, on Thursday, April 23rd at 10 o'clock in the morning, a grand opening of the Express Factory in the Mills at Jersey Gardens Mall, located at 651 Kapkowski Road. Later that evening at 6 o'clock, the International Rescue Committee in New Jersey will have an event at 208 Commerce Place. It'll be on the 4th floor, and this facility will start offering a new session of citizenship classes beginning on May 28th at 6 o'clock in the evening. For more information, call 908-351-5116, extension 109. And following that event at 6:30, the National Junior Honor Society induction ceremony will be held at the Terrence Riley School Number 7, located at 436 First Avenue. And on Saturday, April 25th at 11 o'clock in the morning, the anniversary of Pro-Cuba Association, they will have their annual elections at 9-13 Morrell Street. And later that afternoon, around noon, the 100th anniversary dedication ceremony of Benedictine Academy. They will honor Sister Germaine, the longtime prioress, and the Benedictine Sisters. This will be held at 840 North Broad Street. Following that event at 1:30, the Church of God Evangelistic Service and Food Donation event will be held at Brophy Field, located on Trumbull Street and 3rd in the city of Elizabeth. And after that event at 2 o'clock, I'm going to be at the Ford Leonard Building Anniversary in the community room located at 69 Division Street for an afternoon holiday celebration. Later that evening at 6 o'clock, the Portugal Day Committee's pageant will be held at the Portuguese Instructive Social Club located on Route 1 and 9 and Grove Street. And on Sunday, April 26th, the grand opening of the Berea Laboratories located on the Berea campus of the Jewish Educational Center, 35 North Avenue. And as an early reminder, Friday, May 8th at 7 o'clock, Councilman-at-Large Frank Cuesta will hold his 9th annual Elizabeth Promise Awards Dinner. More and more scholarships are given out every year because of Councilman Frank Cuesta's efforts in this organization, which is dedicated to assisting the youth of Elizabeth as they advance their education after high school. If you'd like more information concerning this event or any other events or wish to purchase tickets, please call Councilman-at-Large Frank Cuesta at 908-578-3567. If you need more information concerning these events or any other events, please call our Public Information Office at 820-4124. Please stay with us after these messages. I'll be back with more about Environmental Day in the City of Elizabeth.
Sometimes you learn by helping others learn. Kane University.
Welcome back to Our City, where I'm pleased to be joined by Dr. Craig Donovan of Future City. Dr. Donovan, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
And Miss Lisa Barron, who's a project manager with the Army Corps of Engineers Civil Works. Lisa, welcome back.
Thank you very much.
Now, the both of you have been on the show before.
Yes.
So, who wants to start? Craig, you want to start? You've been here. Sure. I learned about you from the beginning. I didn't know you came from San Diego. Talk about Future City. You went from San Diego to here. Should have been the other way around.
Yeah, it's a reverse commute.
Okay.
Cuts down on the traffic.
Good. Now, you have a doctorate degree. You teach here at Kane University.
That's correct. I have actually two. I have one in business and one in government. So I try and explain business to the government people and government to the business people.
How does that work out?
Not so well.
Sometimes they get it and sometimes they don't, right?
Well, it's very helpful. It's very helpful because often people in government really don't have a lot of business experience, so it helps them to be able to understand a little bit more where the business people are coming from, and vice versa. The business people don't always understand what some of the policy issues are and other things, and why government is interested in what business does and how to support them.
So, Craig, you got involved in an organization in the City of Elizabeth called Future City. Tell us about the organization and your role in it.
Sure. Well, one of the first things I did when I came here a little over 20 years ago was to work with Michelle Duran-McBean and some of the other concerned citizens in Elizabeth in founding Future City Inc. right here in Elizabeth. It's a nonprofit, and the mission is really built around creating sustainable, what we would today call green environmental development, and to educate people who live here in the city about the environment, particularly in Elizabeth and the local region. One of the organizations that's a part of us is the Elizabeth River Arthur Kill Watershed Association. Hence, a lot of the things that we do that are built around the watershed area, the river, the cove, and those kinds of things. And one of the events that we've held now is Environmental Day, and we've done that for the last 13 years. It takes place on the waterfront and gives the population and the students of Elizabeth a chance to come out, see the water area, see the river, learn about their environment there, working with our partners such as the Army Corps of Engineers and the Coast Guard.
So that's a pretty good segue, Lisa. You're no stranger to the show or the city of Elizabeth.
I know.
You've been with us for a few years now. Tell us about your role with the Army Corps of Engineers and how you're getting involved in Environmental Day as well.
Well, I'm a project manager in the Civil Works branch in programs and project management, and I manage most of the ecosystem restoration program within the harbor. And so advancing that, just ecological restoration, and I guess I've only been with the Corps for about going on 8 years now, and have participated in this event and on your show probably over that duration. And it's just, the Corps really is grateful to participate in this event and just being able to reach the students and be able to share what the Corps is doing, not only in ecosystem restoration, but also our involvement in the navigation program and all of our other projects.
So, Lisa, what's a thrill for you? I mean, you work at such a high level with the Army Corps of Engineers, but then you see young kids, sophomores, juniors, seniors, and they come and they actually touch what's in the water. I mean, what are your thoughts on how these kids actually learn?
Well, before I got into the professional field with the consulting and the state and now the Corps, I used to teach marine biology, and so I love these events because seeing the kids in this region, especially in this kind of urban estuary, and I know that the kids don't get to see. They don't get down to the water that much. I mean, some of them, we used to take them out on our Corps vessel, and you'd ask them, have you been out here? And right in their backyard, and they don't even know.
Those days are over, right? They can't do the vessel.
I know. Our vessels, used to come to this event, and that was one part that I really loved. But having them out there on the water. But, okay, they're on the shoreline in the marina, and still being able to understand what is going on in the harbor and what's going on in their backyard, and seeing that excitement it's really rewarding.
And Craig, Environment Day is important for the city because it's a very strong educational tool. But the partners and the students participating in Friday's event, what do you hope as a professor, even at the high school level, what do you hope the students get out of this?
Well, a couple of things. One, obviously, we want them to learn about their environment in general, but particularly here in Elizabeth. We want them to have a chance to come out to the water, as Lisa said, and actually experience it, because it's amazing how many people don't make that mile or 2 mile trip to have a chance to come down and see and learn about the watershed. And so for us, it's a great chance for the students to get out there, see and touch, learn about. We work with a number of partners. I mentioned the Corps of Engineers, the Coast Guard. We also have the New York, New Jersey Baykeepers Association, NJDEP, the the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, the NJIT Chem Club, the North New Jersey Hispanic Professionals Association. We get Elizabeth High School and a lot of the other high schools and Elizabeth Public Schools and the students and the teachers to come on out. Kane University, of course. But it's not even just today. Working with the Elizabeth Historical Society, we have presentations so the kids can learn about the history of the waterfront and how it's changed and evolved over the last 400 or 500 years. So, they get a chance to see it and experience today, yesterday, learn about what's going on in the future, and how the environment plays such a crucial role in their daily lives.
500 years ago, we didn't even know, well, nobody knew we were here, right? 500 years ago.
Well, 500 years ago, you go back to the days really kind of pre-settlement, and then you see how this area has evolved from the very earliest settlers through to the current day. I mean, most of us grow up and think it's always been this way, and don't realize how much things have evolved and changed over time, over the centuries.
So Lisa, Environmental Day from your perspective, how important it is as well for the Army Corps of Engineers also to explain what they do on every day?
Yeah, and telling them and sharing with them what we're doing and what our partners are doing, because it takes a lot of people to transform the region, and especially if you're talking about how it's transformed since those pre-settlement days where it was all green and now it's pretty gray. To be able to
pretty gray
from a standpoint of
I've never heard pretty and gray in the same sentence.
Pretty gray, I mean a little bit. Just, where when you look at I mean most of the time you can look at Google Earth and just look down and see all that infrastructure that has been basically transformed the shoreline, and so it's no longer green. And so we want to try to transform that back and restore wetlands and restore different habitats. And I think it's really important to get that point across and see what kind of roles they can play in. And just working in these kinds of events that are, these STEM events, the science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, getting them excited, because we need the future generations to get excited and be interested in this field so that they can come out and help us and with whether it's EPA or DEP, but help us solve the issues that at hand, and be the future workers at the Corps of Engineers to make a difference.
Now you talked about habitats, and earlier you mentioned the word estuary. A lot of people still don't know the definition of estuary, so could you please talk about habitats and what an estuary is?
Sure. Well, an estuary is where saltwater and fresh water mix, and so the saltwater is coming in from the ocean, mixing with all the fresh water that's coming in from the tributaries, and it becomes one of the most productive ecosystems in the world, like kind of next to the rainforest. And so you've got all of this life, and unfortunately, I mean, there is habitat out there. Obviously, there's marine life, but most of that habitat's been lost. And so, if you're talking about more than 85% of the wetlands going from that green to filling to where there's now infrastructure and people, trying to improve that habitat and bring back those particular the benefits for improving fish and wildlife habitat, and which also improve water quality and improving our sediment quality. There's a lot to do, and so, but I think it's important to bring back and restore the estuary, and that's what my focus has been. Since I've been focused on ecosystem restoration for so long.
We're going to take a break, run a couple of commercials, and come back and talk more about Environmental Day in the City of Elizabeth. Please stay with us after these messages. We'll be back more with Craig and Lisa talking about Environmental Day in the City of Elizabeth.
We're an American original, dependable, historic, nuanced, with all the comforts of home, even when you're just visiting. So we're celebrating for all that we've left untouched and all that we've changed. A place where the past meets the future. So consider this your invitation.
We've been celebrating here in Elizabeth for 350 years, and we're just getting started. our city, where I'm joined by Dr. Craig Donovan and Miss Lisa Barron, talking about Environmental Day in the city of Elizabeth. And Craig, as we move into the second part of the show, your efforts in clean water and the role at this event, how long has Future City been involved in all of these efforts?
Well, we've been doing clean water projects for almost 18 years now, and for the last 13 years we've been doing the Environmental Day. We work with our partners on everything from tree plantings, cleanups. We've also started something relatively new with the students called the Alternate Spring Break, where high school and college students during their spring break, instead of going out and partying, come and work with us on various environmental projects.
I met with them at
You met with them at Bonnell House.
Bonnell House, right.
What they did this year was they really focused on storm drains. And so they were looking at the drains, where they're located, how they're marked, what goes into them, what comes out of them, how to educate people in the city about their role and why they're not a trash can. The kids even made a number of videos, not only about the work they did, but educational public awareness videos to teach other kids and their families about the drains and the storm system and how that ties into the watershed. So we've been doing a number of these things. We were also doing the Arthur Kill Blueway initiative, which focuses on the Arthur Kill and the fact that this has now become a federal marine highway to help take traffic off of the roads and put more of it onto the waterways to help the environment, reduce pollution, those kinds of things. So we've been doing a number of efforts to help educate the kids, help them learn about their environment, share this with their families, share this with the community, and become environmental stewards as the next generation.
So in his role in clean water, what is the Army Corps' role in this region?
Well, since you mentioned blue highways, one of our most long-standing mission has been navigation mission and deepening the harbor. And so keeping those blue highways open, since they used to be 19 feet deep. And we just this year are going to celebrate the 50-foot deepening project, so construction and removal of the sediment so that those large ships can come in and maintain the economic viability of the port. And so with that, maintaining our $1.6 billion investment that, was basically invested to keep those ships coming in. But a lot of sediment had to be removed. And so just over the last 10 years, we've moved almost 70 million cubic yards of sediment. And so if you can appreciate 70 million yards, that's like more than 40 Empire State Buildings full, or a football field filled up to the height of Mount Everest, 5.4 miles high. It's a lot of sediment, and so we're really proud that we've beneficially used the material and done a lot of great things with the sediment. And so capping a lot of landfills in New Jersey, using the rock for reefs.
That can be used to cap landfills?
Yeah, we've processed it and capped landfills. You mentioned the mall earlier when you were doing your announcements, and there's some sediment under the New Jersey Gardens Mall parking lot, or it capped the landfill over in Bayonne, and now you've got that lovely golf course. A lot of leaching landfills, so improving the environment in that way with our dredge material management program, as well as building wetlands. And so, granted, we took sand from Ambrose Channel and moved off, used it for marsh islands in Jamaica Bay. We've stabilized shorelines, to protect highways, and the Belt Parkway over in Brooklyn, and just utilize it as much as we can. So that's really important, as well as our ecosystem restoration mission. Like I said, bringing back the habitat, and most importantly, since Sandy hit, our focus in the New York District has been completely on the highest priority is recovering the shorelines and
I was going to ask you to talk about some of the
Yeah.
progress since Hurricane Sandy. It's not seen by the person on the street,
Right.
but you've made a lot of progress since Hurricane Sandy.
There's been a lot of progress. And in 2013, Congress gave the Corps of Engineers, along with the Flood Control and Emergency Control Act funds to repair, restore, and plan for the future, $3.5 billion, in the Disaster Appropriations Act of 2013. And so there's been 59 projects that the Corps has been advancing, and we've actually completed 33 of them. And so and that was not that long ago. And so really repairing and restoring those shorelines and the beaches that were, really saw the devastation. They put 15.2 million cubic yards of sand on the beach, and recreated the dunes, planted beach grass, so that hopefully when everyone goes to the beach in New Jersey over the summer, they'll have a lot bigger, more substantial beaches, and they'll protect it with the infrastructure. And as well as ongoing studies or studies that were authorized in the past but were never constructed. There's a lot of projects that have just been, put out to bid to put sand on basically, I guess the area is on Sandy Hook, and as well as in Fire Island and Montauk in New York. So those are ready to go. There's a lot of ongoing studies that study the feasibility reports have been completed in record speed and ready for just approval, so that they can figure out the long-term planning of what these shorelines need to really what the solutions are, and whether it's a flood wall levee or integrated with green infrastructure, nature-based features that come from the restoration plan that I've talked about so much in the past, having that integrated structure, whatever is going to make the shorelines more resilient and environmentally sustainable and protective of the infrastructure behind it. That's been a primary focus.
Craig, Lisa just talked really well about how the Army Corps is benefiting the region, and you talk about the students. How can you combine all this as a person who studies policy? How does it benefit the community? How does it benefit the city of Elizabeth? How does it benefit the county or the state?
Sure. Well, I mean, things like what we're doing with Environmental Day, by having the kids come out and actually see the watershed area, Johns Cove and the waterway, listen to and learn from the Corps and the Coast Guard, get inspired in terms of learning about their own homes, learning about careers and opportunities, and seeing the linkages between the water, the city, the region. I mean, Lisa was mentioning the dredging. They're rebuilding the Panama Canal. What does that have to do with us? Well, that brings in bigger ships. Bigger ships need deeper harbors. Deeper harbors need dredging. All kinds of things. Elizabeth is touching on all of the various, not just environmental, but economic development around the world is built primarily around the waterfront and the harbor region. And so we not only have to repair the problems from Hurricane Sandy, but we have to enlarge and expand upon what we can do here economically and do it in a way that's environmentally safe, so that the waterfront and the community that the kids have when they're our age is so much better than it was when we were their age. I mean, we're old enough to remember when air pollution and water pollution were significantly worse than they are now. And our goal is to help educate the kids and motivate them to not just keep it the way it is, but to make it ever better.
So we've always talked about the kids, and Lisa, as you've talked about them. Do we start there, or do we start with the parents and hope the parents pass it down?
Well, I think we do better when we start with the kids, because if we can challenge them and get them inspired, that's a lifetime commitment. And then they're often the ones who can go home and educate and inform their parents and help their parents learn about the things they can do to improve the environment today. So I'm a big believer that the kids are the place to start.
Lisa, you talked about dredging. Where are we on the dredging process? I guess I should concentrate my question regarding the Arthur Kill, because anywhere else doesn't affect Elizabeth.
Well, I think every place else that we've had to dredge, those ships are coming in.
They have to get
here,
right?
They have to get here. They have to get through Ambrose and Anchorage and through the Kill Van Call to get to the New York Container Terminal in the Port Elizabeth.
Now, I know what Ambrose is because I used to work in the shipping business, but tell our viewers what Ambrose is.
Ambrose Channel, these are just names of the channels that make up the Port of New York and New Jersey, and that's basically the entryway from the ocean.
First one.
It's the first one. And so we basically are going to celebrate that 50-foot deepening. And so right now ships can get through, and we finished in New Jersey the last contract in the Arthur Kill so that the ships can get to the New York Container Terminal, and we've done that. And so, and I have to thank again all of your the communities and residents that are here, because it was a bit challenging because the Arthur Kill had a lot of rock in it, and so there was blasting that had to occur. But getting that done is really a huge milestone. We do have to do a little bit more dredging. We're picking up some shoaling areas and some impacts that occurred during Sandy. But we've got a little bit of area over
How do you find those areas? Some kind of camera or?
They do bathymetric surveys, and so figure out, okay, is it done? Is it is it dredged to the depth that we said we were going to do? And so we could turn it over to then our operations division to do some operation maintenance, because it has to be maintained, because all the sediments fill in the channels. But what we are doing, and we just awarded the contract, there's a segment downstream of the New York Container Terminal down to the refinery, Phillips 66 down in Linden. And so
The Bayway Refinery?
yeah, so
Same
we're
thing?
taking that segment of the channel from 35 feet to 40 feet. Once that's done, we'll be done in this area, and then just in the future.
So
just
how
maintain it.
long, Lisa, do you know that it gets filled back in through the natural process?
They are monitoring that, and there's models that project how much material is filling in the channel and where we expect in the future to have to dredge and maintain, because we're going to need continual budgeting, and funding to come to this region so that we can maintain that large, mighty large investment that we made to get to 50 feet. And so there's a lot of projections that they're looking at right now, and so it just depends. I mean, one of the things is we need to curtail sediment runoff and the soils that come in, and wetlands help do that. Wetlands help capture the soils that come off and run off, so that we can prevent.
And restores the habitat as well.
And restores the habitat as well, exactly. So I think there's all these there's a lot of things that affect how fast the channels fill in. And we hope that they don't fill in as much, as quickly as, so that we can enjoy the 50-foot deepening and not have to invest in that maintenance as much as we need to.
Lisa, I want to thank you for joining us on the show.
Thank you.
Appreciate your knowledge and your interest in the city of Elizabeth as well. And Dr. Donovan, I always appreciate your efforts in working with the kids and giving them an education to move forward, especially through Future City.
Well, and we appreciate all that you do to make Environmental Day possible, and all the support of the city. And it wouldn't be a success without you. And thank you so much for having us here.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
I'm Mayor Chris Bolwage. We'll see you next week on another edition of Our City, and I want to thank Dr. Craig Donovan and Miss Lisa Barron for being the guests on this evening's show.
Why do we like it here? Let's just say the reasons are diverse. Kane University.